Hi, Ange.
Yeah, but
Any fresh injury concerns last night? Mickey, all right?
no, all good. Mickey obviously cramped up. Like he hasn't played 90 minutes for a while, but positive thing is he felt really good. Apart from obviously the cramping up, it was a tough game defensively. He had to work hard, but yeah, no, everyone else. I mean, obviously, nothing significant coming out of the game.
Quick turnaround. Any fresh reflections on last night? Any additional thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, we're sort of 12 hours posted, so not a lot of time to kind of review the game as such. But we'll do that this morning. As I said after the game, tough game. You know, you're playing at Chelsea. It's always a tough venue. They're a good side. Yeah, I just felt we worked really hard to stay in the game, which is important when you're playing, in a tough away game. Just really disappointed with the goal we conceded. I thought we had a chance to deal with it a lot better than what we did. And again, when you're playing away from home, that gives you a mountain to climb. But I thought our response after that was good. We obviously scored, got disallowed, and then we had a couple of good chances towards the end. So disappointing to lose, but I think there was enough positive in there.
I mean, there was a lot of talking points, but you've always said with the fans they've got their right to vent, have their right to an opinion. Do you feel now is unity the only way through this now, especially in the league, and what's to come for the rest of the season?
Yeah, look, I get that seems to be the main talking point out of last night, which is kind of consistent. That people tend to focus on the internals of Tottenham rather than the externals. But look, I made a mistake last night in that I celebrated a goal. I purposely, I think since VAR came in, I think I was up in Scotland. I think the first game VAR came in, there was 4 or 5 incidents. We were standing around, and I made conscious decision. I'm not going to really. I'll celebrate, but I'm not going to really celebrate goals anymore because there's no point. You've got to wait for everything to get checked off. Last night, I just felt we needed something, and getting that goal, which I thought was a cracking goal by Pape. I'd obviously heard the supporters weren't happy, with my decision, which is fine. And my response was to celebrate and get them to make some noise now to get behind the team. I thought it was a real momentum shift at that moment because I just felt we did finish stronger. So I guess, like I said, my mistake was celebrating a goal, which VAR has defeated me again, and I won't be doing that again.
You said something about, you said you felt such a disconnect with the world these days. Is that VAR in general, or just maybe just the season? It's not like you.
No, I'm talking about VAR. I don't get it how, as human beings, we are just so accepting of everything these days that I don't get it. We I don't know. I just thought that we had a bit more about us as a race in terms of fighting against things that derail the core of what we believe in. It's like these things, mate. We accepted them in our lives, and now we're trying to reel them all back because we know the damage they do. Too late, horses bolters. The same with VAR and football, but we just let it roll on. This is not a new thing, VAR. It's been there for a long time, and the fact that we're still taking 6 minutes, and the fact that from day to day, literally day to day, you don't know whether somebody's going to intervene or not. Literally day to day. It seems like everyone's okay with that, and that's where the disconnect for me is, because I don't. I thought it was a cracking game up until that moment we were all standing around. I never grew up loving football, and I see other sports where they're happy to stand around and they slot in a couple of commercial breaks as well. But football for me was always about the excitement of up and down, controversies, action all the time. Just like I said, that's where I'm at a disconnect because it seems like everyone else is quite comfortable with it.
I'm glad you cleared that out because I thought that was more in your general morale, because I can feel this morning you've got a bit of...
Oh, mate, I'm fine. Mate, I'm fine. No, it doesn't... These kind of things, I think I said after the game, Matt might have asked me about, the fans, and, I don't get affected by that, mate. I've been fighting my whole career. I'll continue to fight till I'm told to stop by someone. And mate, I still believe we've got a massive opportunity for ourselves this year, and I'm not going to let that just slip away, whether that's from, external or internal pressure. I'm totally focused on doing that.
And I know you've just spoken about your relationship with the fans. I know last night you asked a lot about it. James Maddison after the game said that the fans have every right to be angry with the players. But because you know this group of players so well, I mean, how did it make you feel when you saw the anger that the fans were directing towards the players at the ending of the game?
Yeah, again, it's I don't know. I feel like, people want me to say something that somehow will change the mood of the fans. Maybe I've just never done that. I've never felt like that's my role. My role is to try and produce teams and play a way that gets the support of the fan base behind what we're doing. It's not unusual that they're quite frustrated and angry at the moment. I get that. But at the same time, I think if anyone looks at that group of players, I understand the criticism towards me because I think I'm in charge of the whole thing, and I think that's fair enough. But if anyone looked at those players last night and thought they weren't trying, or that somehow, resign themselves to their fate, then I'm sorry, they're not watching the right game. I mean, the players are fighting tooth and nail to try and, address our issues, within a really difficult season. And also, like I said, try and take this massive opportunity that's ahead of us. So, I think it's a little bit unfair to be targeting, the players in this situation.
Will you speak to the players in particular today about how will you try and lift their spirits, I suppose, after the way that game went last night?
Look, I don't think, there's no other option, but, we've got a game in, 48 hours' time or whatever it is. So leading into a really big game Thursday night. So we just need to, like with all these things, we've certainly, we've copped our fair share of blows this year, and, we've just got to dust ourselves off and get out there on Sunday and repeat a lot of what happened last night in terms of effort, in terms of some of our work, improve in a couple of areas and try and get some momentum leading into Thursday.
With Southampton obviously struggling at the bottom of the table, is this a good chance for you to rotate your starting 11?
To a certain extent, I think, we're sort of a little bit beyond that in terms of, I think for the most part the group's in a decent place physically where I don't have to sort of get players game time. But like I said, I think it's important we get some momentum leading into, the game on Thursday. So we'll make a couple of changes. We won't make too many.
Hi, Ange. Your decision to take Lucas Bergvall off last night was met by some cheers. Can you just explain what your thinking was behind substituting him?
I think Lucas been outstanding all year actually, but I thought last night he just didn't look himself in terms of physically, and I thought we needed some energy and some running power. We knew he'd finish strong, and I thought Pape gave us that.
Against Fulham, Archie Gray started in midfield. Is the next couple of weeks an opportunity to play him in what he sees as...
Yeah, look, we want to win games of football, so we'll make those decisions. I think we're past the point of just, looking at developing players right now. I think whether it's Archie or any of our players, all they want to do is try and address our current situation and win games of football, and Archie's a big part of that.
Mikey Moore was in the squad last night ahead of Dane Scarlett. Was an issue with Dane, or was that just purely tactical?
Yeah, Dane's been a bit sore. Look, it's been difficult for Dane because he's come off not playing a lot with his loan, and he's kind of been working really hard at training to get his conditioning up, and he was a bit sore the last few days, so we decided to give him the weekend off. Not a major issue. Hopefully he's back training today. Thanks, mate.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good, mate.
A couple of minutes ago, you were talking about how when you started watching football and you didn't see players standing around for a long period of time. Am I wrong to say that I feel like because of VAR and how long it takes, you're kind of falling out of love with the game that you grew up new?
No doubt. Yeah, it's not the game and maybe I was influenced by England and particularly the old First Division. It was what I loved about it, as opposed to other leagues, was just the frenetic pace of it. It was always in English football. There was always something happening. I loved that, and it's kind of influenced me a lot in terms of the kind of football I like to watch. There was plenty of other leagues, we could have watched, but it was always the English First Division that was, end-to-end stuff. not a lot of teams trying to hold on to wins. It was just everyone going for it. And like I said, it was the speed and tempo of it that I loved. And yeah, I am. I've tried to sort of design a game plan that has tempo and energy, because I think if you're going to bring people there for an hour and a half of entertainment and engagement, you want them off their seats. You want them, and there was 12 minutes of extra time last night. I mean, this is not, so like I said, this is not like VAR was brought in last month. It's been in here for a long time, and it's still taking 12 minutes. Now everyone say, oh yeah, but it came to the right decision. Well, like I said, well, that's what people want then. Let's continue, and continue to get this. I don't like it. I am falling out of loving the game, because I loved celebrating goals. I don't, like I said last night, I did, and I'm paying a massive price for it. I'll make sure I don't do it again, but I reckon that's kind of sad.
I do like to listen to what you're saying. I mean, listen, as in take it in. I remember about a year ago when we had another discussion on VAR, you said, in every other sport, technology was brought in to speed it up, but not in football. You did say that, didn't you? Right?
Yeah, I did, yeah, that's right.
Isn't it sad that I'm sitting here today with a Premier League manager who's admitted they've fallen out of love with the game because of technology? Shouldn't we be looking to go?
No, because I'm the lone voice. I don't hear anyone else saying it. Like I said, that's where I said earlier that I'm disconnected. I don't think anyone else cares. It's like I said, it's like, we're just so accepting of everything in life these days. Maybe I come from a different generation where we used to rail against anybody who tried to sort of change fundamentals of our life. But it's, like I said, it's like the same as the phone. It's just like, you get a phone and you think, this is great, and now we find out that probably does more damage than good in our lives, and at some point it'll get regulated, but it's too late now. It's the same with technology. It was the same game last year here at home where Christian Romero got a red card and a penalty and changed the whole game, maybe changed our season. 12 months later, how can you not sit there and go, well, and you know what? Reflecting on my comments last night, I don't think I mentioned the referee once. I kept talking about the VAR official, which again, I always had the utmost respect for the officials. I sort of prided myself that I never carry on. I'll never get booked. I'll never criticise referees, maybe sometimes decisions, but there's no point in me criticising the referee, because he had no involvement last night, apart from being dictated by somebody else to go to the screen, and like I said, you always understand there's inconsistencies, because each referee, they're a human being. They're going to interpret things a different way. So you kind of know that week to week you'll get some discrepancy, right? But as I said, you watch the Liverpool-Everton game. I think it was Paul Tierney who was VAR official. Now, he was also the official for our Fulham game, where I thought Lucas Bergwall should have got a penalty. Now, it's quite obvious that Paul Tierney's got a pretty high threshold. Fair enough. But then the next night we get Jared Gillett, who obviously has a lower threshold. So now it's not just the inconsistency of the officials, the referees. You got another guy now. I don't get it. But what you said, sorry, to your original question, isn't it sad? I don't think it is sad. But it's sad for me, but because I'm kind of the lone voice, I don't think it's sad for the game, because I think it's where the game's heading. I guess people want that, and I've got to accept that. I'll probably. When I do finally retire, watch less football and try and find another hobby.
Can I just change tack a little bit with the fans?
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been asked a lot about your relationship with the fans. Yeah, when you first came in, those first 10 games, it was all I was hearing from every Spurs fan was, "We've got our Spurs back."
Yeah.
Has it really gone that wrong? Or?
Yeah, look, again, it's probably a better question for the fans themselves. But look, I understand it. It's been a ridiculously challenging season on all fronts, and I get, and every fan's got the right to show their frustration and anger. Like I said, I think it has at times it oversteps, and when it does overstep, I'm not going to stand for it, because again, I'm a little bit old school with that. But they have every right, and I think I said before the game, it's up to us to try and find a way to get them back on board with what we're doing. I still can't get away from the fact that we've got a real massive opportunity for ourselves between now and the end of the season. I think it'd be different if that didn't exist. I think that it would be a tougher sort of road to navigate. But I'm hoping that, irrespective of how the fans feel about me and what I'm doing and sort of the project we've embarked on, is that when those games come around, they just get behind the players and the team, because they can make an enormous difference. Yeah.
And just wanted to talk a bit about the performance. I certainly saw the work rate last night, but maybe thought the level could have been a bit disappointing given a lot of players came back. I wondered, what do you think we should expect from Spurs at this stage?
Well, I think the key to that is, you said the players come back, is that's kind of the first game. So I thought we had to work really hard. And, look, irrespective of how you're going, when you go to Chelsea at their ground, it's always a tough ask, not just for us, but for anyone. I think for the first game, where we kind of got some of these players in together as a group, I thought there was some encouraging signs, but obviously there's some areas we need to improve. I thought our build-up play was really good. It's tight ground, very hard to play. I just thought our front third play could have been a little bit more cleaner and clinical. But again, we've got some work to do there, because obviously Wilson and Dom in particular have missed a large chunk of the season. So, but I certainly saw enough there last night that if we can sort of build on that, and Sunday's a good opportunity to do that, then we can get to the levels we need to get to for the Europa.
Yeah, I was going to go on to that. What kind of level do you need to be at to actually win the Europa League? Clearly, that's the target. How much better do you need to be to sort of win it?
Yeah, I think you don't think of it in terms of what we've got to try and do is get to a level to get past Frankfurt. They're the first task, and there's no point looking beyond that. And like I said, if you look at that last night in the context of an away game, that's how difficult away games in Europe are. They're usually pretty tight. Like I said, disappointed with the goal we conceded, but I thought we fought hard at times to stay in the game, and we need to take that sort of mentality to every game you play in Europe, because they all tend to be a bit more cagier and tighter. But like I said, improving a couple of areas.
Is that a personal goal of yours as well, to sort of remind people that you can put a great team out, and when you have all the players available, all the tools that you need, to sort of show that in the coming months, before the end of the season?
Yeah, again, it's not about me showing anything. It's just about, like I said, we have this opportunity before us, where we're in the quarterfinals of a European competition, so you can't just not understand the significance of that. So we're one of 8 teams that can win a competition. We want to, irrespective of what's gone on before or what's going to happen after, is that, don't let this opportunity get slip by us without at least us, being focused on trying to achieve that. Thanks, mate.
There'll be a protest before the game on Sunday, and the group change for Tottenham are kind of eager for the players to get support during the game, but to obviously make their message heard. Are you kind of concerned though that the fan base feels quite toxic at the minute, and it could be a toxic atmosphere for the players this Sunday?
Look, again, I can't control that. So as I said before, I'd like to think that irrespective of people's feelings right now, I don't think there'd be a Tottenham supporter out there who won't want us to try and win the Europa League. I just can't believe that. That they'd rather us not win to prove a point. So I'm hoping when the game's on, they get behind the players and we create an atmosphere at home. We know that the home game in the Europa League is going to be really important. We had somebody at the Frankfurt game last week, and he said the atmosphere of their ground, that was pretty loud. So we know we're going to face a pretty hostile atmosphere over there. You do that in Europe, so hopefully, we get the same here at Tottenham Stadium and give the lads a boost and give them the leg up they need to get a result.
And kind of, I guess from a team point of view, are you a little bit concerned kind of attacking-wise where the team is at the minute? 'Cause it feels like, I think the AZ game there was real flashes of brilliance, but kind of over the last month it feels like the team struggled to kind of break teams down, and it feels quite far away from the team back in sort of October and November.
Yeah, to a certain extent. Like I said, I think last night there was elements of that, but again, it's kind of, when I look at, like I said, Wilson and Dom have had a real sort of disrupted season, and again, we haven't had a sort of consistency in that front third to kind of get that cohesion, but that's stuff we can work on, certainly, and I think the more we play, that's why Sunday's important. We try and get out there and really try and sort of improve in that front third so that we can, capitalise on. Like I said, I thought our build-up play, and look, makes a massive difference to have Romero and sort of Van der Ven out there in terms of our build-up. I thought our build-up play was really good and a really tough ground to play. But yeah, the front third's the area we can certainly improve in.